Howdy, welcome to BanjoBenClark.com. I'm Banjo Ben, your host here on the site that teaches you how to play guitar and mandolin. This week is Banjo Week, and we're wrapping up a 3-instrument series on this great old song, Just Over in the Glory Land. Each one of them have been a build-a-break, including the one for banjo today. So we're going to start with a very basic melody, and then we're going to move on from that. And the point of these lessons is to walk you through the process, give you a behind-the-scenes perspective of what it looks like to take a melody of a song, add rolls to it, and then make it even spicier by bringing in some licks and some different timing ideas. And that's what we're going to do on this one. It's a lot of fun. If you're watching here on the website as a Gold Pick member, you have everything you need on this page. Just scroll down for the rest of the video lessons and for the tabs and the MP3 jam tracks. If you're watching somewhere else, you can come over to the website, BanjoBenClark.com, join as a Gold Pick member, and spend lots of time with me learning good tunes like this. Let's jump right in. Let's talk about this tune just a little bit. This is a common old spiritual or hymn. It's in a lot of hymn books. Some of them it's not, but it's in a lot of the older ones. And oftentimes it's in the key of B flat. We're going to do it in A today, which is really close. It's just a half step off. But of course we're using a capo, so you can move that capo and do it in essentially whatever key that you want to do it in. Speaking of which, we're going to do it in the key of A, as I said, and we want to put the capo on the 2nd fret. So we're going to put it right on that fret wire or right behind it there. And then we're going to also spike up our 5th string to the 7th fret so that we take it up to an A note, and the banjo should sound like this. Now this song is pretty straightforward as far as chords go. We've got our typical 1, 4, and 5, which in the key of A, the 1 is A, the 4 is a D, and the 5 is an E chord. There's only one other chord that we're going to bring in, and that's a 2 chord, or a 2-7. In the key of A, that's going to be a B, or a B7. Now, that B7 is not played by everyone. This is kind of a stylistic prerogative choice that we can make. A lot of people throw it in a lot of times, and some people don't do it at all. We're going to do it one time in the chorus. I think that's the perfect amount of time. Now, since we are playing with a capo, we're playing out of a G position, but we're capoed up too, so we're playing in A, but I'm going to refer it to everything as if we're playing without a capo, meaning that's a G chord, that's a C chord, that's a D chord, okay? I think that'll just help keep it straight, because those are the actual chord shapes that we're playing, even though with the capo, we're playing higher chords. It's just easier to keep track of as we talk. Okay, now we're going to do a build-a-break, so let's look here at the tab, and what I want you to see right off the bat is that there are some notes that are highlighted. I'll talk about those in just a moment, and then you'll see that I have right beneath the notes, those little marks in circles. Those are our pick hand fingering, so thumb, index, and middle. And then beneath that, we even have the words, and that's just to help us keep track of where we are in this song. Now, going back to that melody is the very, very basic melody, as basic as you can get it. And the reason why I included that is because I wanted you to see how we can take a very, very basic melody and throw some common banjo rolls and ideas around that melody to begin to make it sound like a banjo song. So here's what I'd like for you to do. Look at the first line. Let's try to isolate just the melody notes and see what it sounds like. Can you play through those with me? It would sound like this. Okay, and so oftentimes as a banjo player, you're faced with a melody. Maybe you can figure that melody out, and then you might find yourself asking the question, what am I supposed to do with it now? Okay? Now, for the sake of this beginner basic version here, we're going to leave all those melody notes exactly as they would be, timing-wise, in this song. But honestly, in real life, what we'd probably do is have the liberty to push and pull those melody notes to maybe land a little earlier than what you're expecting, or maybe arrive a little later than what you're expecting. We'll do that in the next solo, the intermediate solo. But for now, let's keep it straight up. And that way you can see what kind of banjo rolls can we fit. And the easy thing about this melody is that it's very, very square. It's very, very straight up. The melody is quite slow, and it's consisting of quarter notes and half notes, as you see there. So there's not just tons that we can do around it while keeping those melody notes exactly as they're sung, but there's a lot of things still that we can draw from. Look there in the first measure of the verse, I've a home. Now in home, there's our melody notes. So what could we do? Well, what I'm going to do here is play a square roll. And then when we land on paired, I'm going to do a pinch. Now that's very important when we're thinking about building banjo solos, is that banjo solos don't consist of all rolls. In fact, if you just play a bunch of rolls, you're going to wear people out. Quarter notes are good. Pinches are good. So we're going to use a lot of those, and there's nothing wrong with them. In fact, they're quite tasty. So far we have this. Again, we're going to use a square roll in the C measure there. Now for the fifth measure there, or fourth measure, the one that's the C measure, the Saints Abide measure, we're over a C chord, and I'm going to make a full C chord with my fret hand, but we don't always have to do that. For this time we are, but later on we'll see where we can play a partial C chord and be just fine. So that whole line, remember we just have our basic melody. And when we put some banjo stuff around it, it sounds like this. Pretty cool, huh? Let's look at the next line. What do we have for melody? Not a whole lot going on, right? And then look at that melody note there on land. Gosh, it hangs out that whole measure and halfway through the next measure. We don't have any more melody notes until the last two beats of this line when we have and. So we're hanging out over a D chord. There's lots of things that we can do there. And so leading up to that, we're doing more of what we've done before, the pinches and the square rolls. But when we get to that land, gosh, we can do whatever we want. I'm just going to give you an idea here. Let's make a partial D chord. And what I'm actually done is switch to my index finger to play that second fret. And then I'm going to use my ring finger to grab the fourth fret here. And it sounds like this with some forward rolls. The whole line. So maybe you've noticed that whenever we're having to play a bunch of melody notes that are closer together, I will opt for my square rolls. That's because those are easy to fit in, those measures. But when we have those melody notes that are hanging out for a long time, I can go more into a forward roll that can carry us through more than one measure. And those aren't hard, fast rules. That's just what I'm doing here as I'm beginning to spice up a very, very basic melody. The next line, we have some repeating. We've seen all this before. And then we're going to wrap up the verse starting in measure 15. We've seen this before. Or actually, there's a pinch. And then what I want you to notice in that measure 15, is there a reason why I pinched on the word in? There's not. That's just my prerogative. When you're building your solos, you could have pinched both the third and the fourth beats. Or you could save it just for the fourth beat. Okay? Or you could have done on the second beat. Okay? That's what I want you to see, is that you're not having to do this exactly like me. You're seeing ideas for what you can do. And by watching enough of these through the power of digital osmosis, hopefully you pick up some of these skills and techniques. There in measure 16. again, we're reverting to the square roll to carry on that very straight melody. So that whole line. Now again, in measure 17, we land on land. That melody note lasts for 6 beats. It lasts through that whole measure, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and we don't have another melody note until just. So we can do whatever we want there. And honestly, as we'll see in our next solo, I'd be tempted to do more of a lick there. Okay, but in this very basic version, I didn't want to give you any slides or hammer-ons. This, that way people that are just starting can get a handle on this, and to know that we don't have to play a lick either. All I did was just throw a second fret down, and it sounds great. And that's just a very basic version of. Okay, let's dive into the chorus now.